Welcome back to Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. Today's guests are Dr. Peter Kagwanja, the Chief Executive of the Africa Policy Institute, and Dr. Wandia Njoya of Daystar University. And we're taking a bird's eye view of the electoral landscape 2 weeks before the general election. And before the break, we were on the presidential debate, and during the break, we were on the presidential debate. And the question that you asked, Charles, you were making a reference to the media's relationship with the presidency.
Yes.
Please make
and in
point.
particular, I was picking up on the point where Dr. Kagwanja mentioned the fact that the president doesn't have bad blood with the media per se or individuals in bad. But I was just jogging his memory. The other day the president was in a public rally and he said, "Magazeti ni ya kufunga nyama, I don't care what they say." The same story that we are hearing now. The voters are out here. The voters are not in the media.
But have you recognized that this particular president, I'm saying this in comparative terms, because I work very closely with the Kibaki government, and to pull the first media interview was historic. The one that came with the headline, "The New Kibaki," if you remember. Now, this president has consistently engaged the media in different forums. He himself has authored very many articles and has found the media as the most reliable venue for his most emotive issues. Look at his eulogy of the former Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew. What did he do? He posted his mourning or his whatever on that, and you can cite many more articles where he has
That's a disingenuous argument, isn't it, Dr. Kagwanja? Because the point that Charles seems to be making is that this is a very inconsistent relationship. Yeah. When the media is needed as an outlet, it's used. But when
the media needs them,
yes.
Yeah, but is that peculiar to the president?
But with all due respect, I've dealt with the president from Kenyatta
for a long time.
You cannot compare in terms of friendships and relationships. President Kenyatta is very friendly to the media, despite his complaints.
This current president.
Uhuru Kenyatta. Despite his complaint that the media did not support him, or does not support him. First of all, his family owns a very tough media house. And in fact, if you look at the way they are treating the news, I do have a lot of respect for them. Because you see, you cannot say this is a family-owned television or media house. They are covering news very independently.
I'm sure our viewers have noticed.
Would you say the same of the radio outlet?
I'm not talking about the radio. I'm talking about television.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the media in general. So, but I'm sure, hold on, before we go any further, I'm sure our viewers have noticed the colors you're wearing. I'm so close to the general election. You know, the red tie, I think that's a Jubilee.
It has nothing to do with
the orange tie, which is
it has absolutely
yellow, which is
I must issue a disclaimer and say it has nothing to do with any political party or political affiliation.
Throughout my life, I've never bought a party ticket, ever. I've never belonged to a political party.
Oh, you didn't join KANU?
Never.
I was in KANU for life. I was in KANU when we were made to buy those cards after we rioted on campus.
I was in KANU, and I used
actually anybody who went to university during Moi's time, when the university went on strike, you had to have a KANU membership card to go and report to the chief. So it goes without saying. He must have been in KANU.
No, I
never joined?
No, never. I left the university before.
Okay, so let's move on to other things. And part of this, on Monday as well, we had the High Court ruling, as you were pointing out, Dr. Kagwanja, the latest in a series of rulings involving the IEBC. How can the IEBC focus on its work of delivering a credible and peaceful election when it's so distracted by litigation?
I think litigations are in order because how else are you as a private citizen or anybody else going to question things? I think what was curious about litigations is where you have about 19 cases presided over by the same judge with the same outcome, and outcomes that tended to put...
Are you referring to Justice Odunga?
I didn't want names in the forum.
No, but you're referencing someone whose name is in the public media within the same context, and who's also been
I think it's also important that we say that not in all the 19 cases was he alone.
No, whatever it is, that this is the lead person in this issue, and we are talking about 19. Actually, now by the time these cases were passed, there were 21 cases. Of course, the three have not been, have gone favorably in favor of IEBC. But that raised serious questions. And Tuju, the Secretary General of Jubilee, called a press conference to alert the nation that we are having a problem here of ethnic or family cabals or related cabals that have, and I penned an article myself with no apologies where I talked about institutional capture, if you read on my side article. And what was the debate about? That the court that we reformed after 2010 must be truly impartial. Two, the court must be sensitive to our own stability and survival of our nation. The argument was the court rulings that were coming were putting uncertainty around the date of 8th of August. And the date of 8th of August is cast in concrete because it is constitutional. I mean, it is you have to change the constitution through a referendum to change that date. Now, if then we are not going to have election there, what are we going to have? A constitutional crisis leading to the best option was a power sharing arrangement, or what you call a caretaker government. Was this the idea? So that is how the debate flowed. And I think what the court has done in the last 1 week, and I'm happy to state this, is a quick rehabilitation or self-rehabilitation, which has meant that there is no conflict between the court and the survival of the nation. And I think we are back to where we were.
But do you think it was fair and right for the president and the deputy president to attack the Chief Justice on those matters?
I don't think he attacked the Chief Justice. The deputy president said very clearly that it was completely out of order for the Chief Justice to state before a ruling is made that the company which was requested or asked or commissioned to print papers should stop printing until the ruling, which I think was preemptive.
The same Chief Justice that they went to Nyamira and told people that we gave your son?
How many times have we denounced our own sons?
So all this is politics.
Yeah, no,
all
really,
this they were doing is
really,
politics. What I'm more interested in your argument is it that one of the litigants was intentionally choosing the judge to hear their case so that they win 19 or 21 cases in a row?
I think
is it the preserve of somebody who goes to court to decide which judge listens to my case?
No, the case was the explanation was made in a more deeper way. And Charles, if you've been following, you'd have been told that it was not just Justice Odunga himself. It was a cabal comprising of about 5 judges who and lawyers, some of whom are already in the legal committee of NASA. If you look at the legal committee. So that's a broad argument. I'm trying to avoid names here.
Doctor, well, you've already put the name out, and one would hope, Justice Odunga is not here to defend himself, but one would hope that he might feel the need to respond to some of these concerns, because as Charles has said, some of those rulings were not made, were not exclusive rulings, they were made as part of a bench. But Dr. Njoya, you wanted to say something?
No, I just feel that this uncertainty is outside the court. It starts from 50 years ago, actually, or earlier. There is a general feeling among a good proportion of Kenyans that this process is never really objective. And that's actually the reasons for the court cases in the first place, because people feel that they have to keep on challenging. I think it's very sad that we are at a point where we even have to debate ballot printing. Really. And in the UK, there's a very interesting Facebook post that was doing the rounds. A Nigerian who is a British citizen was saying how surprising it is that it's so easy to vote in the UK. You can even vote with a pencil, he went
carry on and go to work.
Carry on and go to work. Why are we not there? And it's because the whole system has not inspired any confidence in Kenyans, and that's why we keep going to court. So I think it's mischievous, personally, for Jubilee to pretend that it is so displeased with the court. I actually don't believe it. I think it's a performance. I think it's just to give themselves some credibility and say, look, even us, we are not happy with the court system, so you can't say that the court system is against us. But we are not dealing with the fundamental issue, which is bigger than the court, which is the fact that we are not confident in the system. Kenyans feel, even up to the very number, and that's why NASA is talking about having a tallying. Even to the very number, even to printing of ballots, we are not sure. I mean, it's ridiculous, and we shouldn't be at this point. It's embarrassing, at least for me. I think it's embarrassing for us to be debating how do we print.
How do we print? How do we announce results?
How do we announce results?
When do we announce results? Who announces the results?
Who asks those questions?
I was in America in 1992 when Clinton was fighting Bush, and when Clinton won. And I went to a polling station. I went to many polling stations. And then I didn't even see people with papers. They were just doing on a billboard, on a board. They just do, if you want to press, you just press a button and you go. You get a ballot, you go. If you want to select individuals, or if you want to the 6 piece, you do one line. If you want to select, you do whatever you want. Zigzag. Whatever you want. But and you go. And you take out. I agree with that. It is very embarrassing that we have to go to spend a lot of money. Can you imagine a lot of money? Ballot paper being brought here by 5 hired delegates. 5 hired planes to bring from Dubai.
And yet we have a currency printing company on Duarakar.
Just because of confidence. It is embarrassing, it is shameful that we have to spend our money, foreign exchange, going to print just because of trust, that confidence. We should move away from that. It's terrible.
No. I think let's be fair to Kenya as a country. We are growing. The pace may be too slow, but we are growing. Maybe what we need to do is get growth motivating solutions that we grow faster enough than we are at this rate.
And so what would the solution be?
Solution lies with the Kenyans. I will still go back to the Kenyans. Make the right choice, regardless of, today people will go to the streets and celebrate because Peter Kagwanja, their own son, has been made the Chief Justice. I mean, somebody elsewhere from a community, somebody said on this set some time back that Kenya is very funny. Somebody sees red in Mombasa as red, and somebody sees red in Busia as blue. That is where we need to move away from and need to move as a society. Let's celebrate what brings us together.
But you can't blame Kenyans, especially after 2007, where the contentious result was numbers. It wasn't campaigns, it wasn't media freedom, it was numbers. It was that simple. So that's why Kenyans are feeling very anxious, because, I mean, they're even now looking at BVR kits and, really minute details which we shouldn't be talking about. But it comes from our history. We've not resolved the issues of 2007, and that's what's still playing in all these court cases. Until we have a system that we can trust, and unfortunately I don't think the IEBC is inspiring this confidence. Until we have a system we can trust, we are going to debate about even the pens that are used to mark the ballot.
Actually, there's already debate on social media about the order of appearance in the ballot paper. I mean,
I think I would be more lenient, and as you started earlier, Charles, Kenyans are very optimistic people, and in that regard make the point that Kenya's democracy is work in progress, but not to forget that in this region particularly, and in Africa in general, and we might dispute this, Kenya is the leading democracy. Why? Because if you look at other regions, these are ex-military people from Rwanda to Uganda. The other country that is closer to us is Tanzania, and so on. It's work in progress, but we need to be patient about each other. 2, we should never forget that Kenyans vote as ethnic groups, not because they don't know the value of nationhood, not because they don't know that they are Kenyans, But because ethnic groups are not what you think about them, they are the only networks that guarantee that young boy from Kedube, from Rwazia in Muranga, or from Kerugoya, the link with the middle, with the center. If you know Peter Kagwanja from Nairobi, you call him and ask him whether there's a job you can elect you. That's what those are the requests that are made to us whenever we go to the village. The people there are not voting as, not talking as tribes. They are talking about opportunities. So I think we need to expand the national cake. We need to expand the egalitarianism, the ability to see yourself as linked directly to the state.
Isn't that one of the indictments of this state which you've been defending? You've been defending it, particularly when it comes to the IEBC rulings, that there is not enough inclusion. And part of the disappointment, going back to the debates about President Uhuru Kenyatta failing to show up, and you'll see it reflected across social media, across the media, was the inclusion. There are people in this country, even though we now have a 44th, in quotes, tribe, there are people in this country... mischief in what sense? We now have a 44th tribe.
We are supposed to have 70. We have 70 tribes.
You know, so
not 44.
We'll carry on enumerating the others and giving them their numbers in the ranking of 70 something. But there are people who feel that they have been excluded from this national cake that you're talking about. You talk about Kenya being the leading democracy. Why then is the region waiting with bated breath to see if we can pull off a peaceful election? Because why are they sending us messages saying, Kenyans, please be calm, vote in peace, don't fight, don't go to war, if we're supposed to be the role model in this region?
Because democracy itself is a very precarious process. When you have the freedoms, you have the freedom to do good and to do bad. That's what democracy precludes. We would not be having this debate if Mzee Moi is where he was in the 1980s. This would not be the debate. The debate would be open up space for us. That's what we had. Now we have the space. What we are being requested is to restrain our raw human instincts and behave like human beings.
I don't think we have the space, and that's why there's so much anxiety about the election.
And uncertainty.
And the uncertainty, because the institutions of Kenya have not translated to reflect the constitution. The constitution is very good with the inclusivity, but how is it that after the constitution, the same person, the same class, so to speak, won the 2013 election? And that was what was so disappointing for half of Kenya, that here we have a constitution which was supposed to give us inclusivity, which was supposed to give us free courts, and the promise, you know, ended in March. So that our institutions, the way they run, the logic of the institutions have not yet changed to reflect the constitution. And that's what people are fighting for. They are fighting for, can IEBC show how it is aligned to the constitution? Can our courts show how they are aligned to the institution? And then going back to voting on tribe, actually, you know, if our healthcare and our education were sorted, which is finally, those topics are finally not on they are not even being talked about, we wouldn't need these politicians, because the single biggest expenditures that Kenyans call their relatives in parliament or relatives in Nairobi for is, can you pay my son's school fees or my daughter's school fees, or I am in hospital, can you pay my bill? Those are the two single biggest things people call their relatives for, and they are not sorted, and we are not talking about them. That is how we end tribalism. If we can sort out so that people service delivery, so that people don't have to call a politician because their kid needs to go to Kenyatta because there is no medicine in Nyamira County. Then people won't need to vote for their tribesmates. They would be able to listen to the issues and vote on those issues. Mutegi?
Wouldn't you believe, say that they have sorted out that free education, free secondary education, free maternity?
Yes, they would. They would.
But isn't that getting home?
Yes, they would. But need I remind you that even as we speak now, the allocation for free day secondary education and free primary education has not reached schools. The other day I was being informed very reliably by somebody in the education sector that this term they've sent 500 shillings out of a possible 1,800 shillings or so. And
actually,
this is
it was in the papers.
Yeah, 1 week to closing of schools.
Yeah.
So then this is the same organization, this is the same body that tells you by January, it will be completely free.
Okay, and my question to you, Mutegi, is how free is free? You know, when you're paying, remember, you've talked about free healthcare or maternity care.
I was talking about what you believe. I'm not saying it's real.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's real.
Fair enough. But let's now unpack what free means, because in some areas of Kenya, you come to the hospital with your water, you have to buy your medication. You come in with your blanket. In some areas, you're coming with your mattress. That's healthcare. Gloves and syringes. Education. And the nurses are still on strike. And then there's free education, where teachers have to, students are paying for their uniforms, school books, what are the material? Lunch, all sorts of things. In fact, I think, was it here where lunch was not able to be served at some point, so children went hungry. So how free is free if we're talking about these social services that Kenyans are crying for but have not been delivered?
I am not a spokesman for Jubilee. I'm saying they are claiming as of now. We've given you free maternity. We bought you equipment for your hospital. Remember the equipment that the governors were refusing. We brought you cancer thing. We brought you machines for measuring this. And then your students are not paying examination fees, as if examination fee is the most important thing from January to December. That's what they're saying. Mr. Kagwanja, maybe you can tell us.
Look, and you see, this was where the gap in the debates was disappointed, because a politician can say, I'm going to give you free education. He's just talking about the money. But where is the teacher to make the connection between saying free education and what actually happens in the classroom? Though that conversation misses in this very short, one answer.
Look, it goes back to what Dr. Kagwanja and Dr. Wandia have just mentioned earlier on. We have space, yes, but is it quality space? No. I will agree with Jubilee when they say we have connected more homes or more families to power. Go to Rift Valley, for example. Even a shack has electricity. Go to Nyanza, a hospital that serves hundreds of people has no electricity connection. So how will you tell somebody in Nyanza that we have connected people to electricity, for example?
Okay, so we have to take a break now, and I'll allow you to respond to that, and then hear from our viewers as well. This is Cheche. We're on Citizen TV. Send us your thoughts for today's guests, Dr. Peter Kagwanja and Dr. Wandia Njoya. Our SMS number is 22422, and you can reach us on Twitter using the hashtag Cheche.